All right, happy Halloween week, everyone, and Thunderbolts. This is an October 2021 update for all Littlestown staff. We are still Thunderbolts, are still flying world class, destination to be determined. Just a reminder, in September of 21, we talked about the difference of COVID last year and this year and why the difference and the changes. And we muddled through the exceptions forms and face mask requirements. And we found some steady ground, at least for the time being. So stay tuned for updates from the Department of Health. Monthly, they are to update schools around the mask order and mitigation strategies moving forward. So thank you for that. This budget or this presentation will talk about 6 topics. Mostly we'll focus on the building project and the long-term budget updates. And then we will touch on the community survey, FID Day communication that went out, the dashboard and the vision for our future, and then a guiding coalition I'm looking to put together to support where we head in the future. So the building project. In November, the board will discuss and hopefully vote to consolidate the secondary schools. There are a number of options, with 5R being the primary option, but we are not locking ourselves into that primary option. We're just indicating at this point we're consolidating the schools. So this visual that you can see focuses on the new parts of the building. You can highlight in blue, and all the gray will be completely renovated with HVAC, flooring, ceiling, some restructuring, and certainly an extension of the cafeteria back in the back there. So at this point, we're going to agree to consolidate. The board will authorize the administration and RLPS architects to move forward in the design process. So over the next year, there will be lots of input into designing what actually will be inside the building, and not just a conceptual drawing. So be on the ready for your input by departments, subject areas, grades, and specifics around offices and everything. So I look forward to the next year and getting that input. To get right to the heart of the matter, the design will take certainly a year, and then in the spring of 2023, we will go out to bid. So at that time, we will know the cost of the project after we've designed it, and we'll see what the bid prices come in at. So that would be 1 year from this spring of 22. In spring of 23, we'll go out to bid and see where we stand. If it happens earlier than that, great. Sometimes it'll happen later than that, but somewhere around that spring timeframe. And then if we follow that timeline of the bids, construction then begins in the spring of 23. And then it'll take 2 years to build, which looks like the fall of 25 for completion. Whether that's a mid-year move or we get done earlier or wait till the end of the year, we won't know until we get close to that. But I wanted you to know these big ticket timelines of starting in 2023 with bid and finishing in 2025 after our 1 year of design. So the budget part. So the project estimates of total cost for everything that are construction and soft costs, somewhere between 43 million and 49 million based on current estimates at this time. With costs of fuel, materials, and escalation of costs, this is certainly higher than we expected. The other component to this is our projected area of renovated square foot would be 189,000, and new square foot would be 53,000 for a total of 242. And when we consolidate, we are reducing the total square foot, just like we did with the Rolling Acres Alloway Creek, by about 60 to 80,000, which really helps with our operational efficiencies. We'll certainly have better quality buildings, but not necessarily as much space. And then one option yet to be decided, we have a lot of work to do. What do we do with the middle school when we're done? Right now, this price range of 1.6 to 1.8 is essentially demoing it and making a parking lot out of it. That is not the preferred plan, or it's just a plan. And so we have a few years to figure out what we're going to do with the middle school, and we'll have to spend a lot of time on that subject. But we needed a price on something to get us started thinking about that issue. So related to the budget, how will we pay for it? So you saw the 43 million plus. Littlestown here in the center, Gettysburg on the left and Upper Adams on the right, just for comparisons. In 2015, this was our fund balance. And you can see we have gone up, and we've been planning for additional expenditures for construction. Even with Alloway Creek being completed, our fund balance still continues to go up, and we're at $8 million. So just like any house or purchasing you would do, we need a down payment. So we're going to plan on using 4 million of this 8 million to put a down payment on the building. And so that gives us our initial start of the $40 million plus project to kick us off with a down payment. So now that we've taken $44 million out of fund balance, what does that mean for our budget? And so by the numbers, so typically when we raise taxes at 3%, that'll generate $500,000 in revenue. But every year, contract obligations take $450,000 of that. And that's basically our salaries and benefits for all the employees. And that's almost 70% of our budget would be salaries and benefits. And at the end of the year, the reason our fund balance has been going up is because we have about $800,000 to the good at the end of every year. It's no different than your home checking and savings account. You have your revenue, you have your expenses, and at the end of the year, do you have more money to put aside, save, or spend? So for the last 5-6 years, we've been running this number back into the fund balance, which is a good thing. It's why we were able to save and put money in the fund balance, and it's also why we're able to do this project. But moving forward with a $40 million plus project, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. So what do we need by 2026 to afford our new mortgage? So think about that. It's a bond in school terms, but it's a mortgage in your terms or most people's terms. So we need 1.35 to 1.6 mils. And that doesn't mean much to folks. So, but when you talk about percent tax raise, over the next 4 years, we need 7.5 to 9% over the next 4 years to fulfill our project obligations of the new mortgage. And so on the left here, you see the tax raise. If we did 3% every year, that would be 12%. And if 2.25% of that project or percent increase goes to the project, that would be our 9% that we need to hit the higher number. So I'm going to plan for the higher number, but most likely our goal will be the lower number, certainly as we value engineer or reduce some of the project expenses. It's a very expensive project. So that means $375,000 out of every tax raise needs to go to the building project to get this additional $1.5 million needed for our new mortgage or bond. But that does not leave us much left to pay for salaries and benefit increases. So that leaves us 0.75% or $125,000. So remember on the previous slide, we needed that, 500,000 was the total revenue. So that means we're going to start taking out of our end of year savings. So for the first year, we'll be okay. For the second year, it'll drop 375,000 because that's going over here to the project. For the following year, it drops another 375,000. And then by the last year, we're going to go into the negative. And so this is the real concern depending on the price of the project. Now understand, this is for the most expensive project at the most reasonable tax increase we have done in the past and would most likely do in the future. And so we'll have invested $1.8 million additional dollars into salaries and benefits over the 4 years. It will drain all of our reserves. So I wanted you to see the reality of the long-term budget and our crunch. So it'll get tight. We certainly won't be able to add positions. We'll be looking at some savings through the combining of the buildings in some way, shape, or form. Our enrollment. So when we combined Alloway Creek and Rolling Acres, and we were discussing that in 2016, you can see where our enrollment was around 1,900. You can go back to 2011, we were at 2,100, and currently we are around 1,821. Now keep in mind, these are the students we serve inside the walls of Littlestown. We have a couple hundred students we serve either through cyber school, outside the walls, virtual school, outside placements, homeschool, and all the above. So it's more like 2,200 total students. But when it comes down to it, we're only serving 1,821. We did the demographic study, and that projected out 10, 20, and 30 years. And we're pretty stable overall with our enrollment, if not declining slightly. It'll just depend on any housing developments in the area. So I just wanted to revisit enrollment. This is an interesting slide. Didn't know it existed. It's in a database system we use with PDE. It focuses on our enrollment, how much it has increased or decreased over time. And certainly we've decreased enrollment slightly, but it also then correlates the enrollment with the full-time equivalent of teaching staff. So this parallels teaching staff with enrollment. So this is a good slide when it comes to understanding if our enrollment decreases, and so too does some of our staff through attrition, that we're able to afford this project. If you keep the same number of staff and your enrollment goes down, you certainly don't have the excess reserves, or you don't have a fund balance growing, or you're not able to tackle large projects such as this. So this is a good slide that we're matching our enrollment to our full-time teacher needs moving forward. And so what does this mean for Littlestown schools and Littlestown? So $40 million is a huge investment in our schools. That's a big number. It's a big step for us. It's worth taking. It'll definitely solve a lot of our secondary infrastructure issues around heating, ventilation, air conditioning, any of the leaks in the middle school, the frozen pipes, the ruined this, the ruined that, and just all those infrastructure issues that cause us not to be able to focus on teaching and learning. So this is a big investment. As you know, we do not have industry or businesses in Littlestown that are very large. So our tax base completely comes from the homeowners, which is challenging in a community such as we have. So we have to be very mindful of our tax increases. And our enrollment is stagnant, you know, and as school choice continues to evolve, I don't see us increasing enrollment. I mean, post-pandemic, school choice certainly has a stronger movement for alternatives. So while I think in Littlestown, we've held on to our student enrollment, and we will because of how we've so far provided education, I still think it'll be a challenge in the out years, 5, 10, 15 years. School choice is still here in some form or another, whether we like it or not. And so opening a world-class school for programming, the classes we offer and the departments and courses, it's very exciting, but it's also challenging at the same time. You know, Alloway Creek and Rolling Acres came together over a period of time, and now we're going to ask the secondary schools to come together over a period of time. And how we do that and how we shape that will determine how much of a world-class secondary school we become and what type of school we open. What did we learn from ACES and Rolling Acres? Lessons learned, there's never enough time to pack. There's never enough storage. But we also learned that when you put staff together and you give them time, they can do wonderful things. And so while the lessons learned, we did save some important items out of Rolling Acres and Alloway Creek, we couldn't save everything. So we have historical facts and value in lots of things, and everybody is tied to something in their rooms. Lesson learned is we can't keep everything. We have to let go. We'll also need more furniture. We didn't certainly prepare as well for all the furniture that we needed, new furniture. So we're going to increase our furniture budget to make sure in the combined buildings we have a lot more furniture. Storage is always at a premium to make sure we have at least enough storage, and then give time for the transition from moving to setting up rooms and getting feedback. Something else we learned is that when we combined ACES and Rolling Acres, we were able to consolidate staff and provide some of that savings that could help that budget number in the out years, all through attrition. You know, no one's going to lose a job along the way, but when people retire or we look to consolidate, we will look for opportunities to help that budget number out to make sure we can build the quality building that we need. So moving to the community survey. And so back in 2015, we started this survey, and it highlighted 4 areas from the community. We had about 700 participants in that survey, and you can see what they were focusing on. And that's what drove a lot of our initiatives. You know, we implemented technology shortly after 2015. We started the conversation about interventions. And so in 2017, you can see technology started to drop, interventions moved up, and high expectations moved up. And then in 2019, still safe environments #1, and I expect that to continue in 2021. But interventions went from just a general interventions to academic and social needs of all learners. And that's where Dr. Fiaschi's comprehensive mental health and program, it really comes into play, meeting the needs of the community survey results, but also the needs of our staff and students. So interventions moved up the list, and then technology moved off the list. And then for the first time, enhancing our physical facilities in the middle school, high school became a community survey topic. So about 700 people in 15 participated, about 500 people in 2017. And then I think we only had about 250 or 300 in 2019. So we're going to release the survey this week, and we will see what the results are and list them in comparison to previous years. In addition to the community survey, some other items that stood out when we asked direct questions about what grade do they give our schools. We certainly have increased. Do they believe we spend our tax dollars wisely? That'll be interesting how they respond now, knowing that we're looking at that building project for the secondary. Everyone believes certainly our teachers care. Do we have high standards? You know, we went up and then we dropped a little bit with the standards. And then would they recommend someone to move to Littlestown? We have a very strong support for people moving here. And then certainly seeking input was a big increase, and then it has stabilized. So we'll ask some of those similar questions to see what results we get in 2021. FID days. So the community was supportive overwhelmingly for the FID days that we ran last year. Thank you to everyone for muddling through COVID and FID. Interestingly enough, I was not a supporter of FID, but I've come around to support them. Still not ideal, but it's a nice alternative to the snow days. So the one common request was a common day and a common time for all students between the buildings. And so we were able to design that from 9 to 1. And so just a reminder that, you know, all staff are required to work the allotted normal hours, but the instructional time from 9 to 1 will primarily be focused for the live stream and completing work. Revisiting the vision and district direction, this hasn't changed. And so we're still focusing on making sure students can get college credits or a CTE certificate and upgrading the facilities while focusing on social, mental, and physical health, and then strengthening the relationship with the community through our communication. And you can see work in all of those areas, certainly around the social, mental, and physical health, the college credits, the CTE work, the building project, and then the app that was released this year and is very popular right now with all the communication going out through the app. And so in addition to the primary goals from the board and the admin, early childhood is still a focus with students reading by the beginning of 3rd grade or the end of 2nd grade. We want to maintain our performance in the top 30% of all schools, regardless of what measures are used. And then this idea of growing students a year's worth of growth, if not more, we need to get more, is still on the table as a primary goal and focus. So our challenge will be to create indicators to measure that along the way and create benchmarks. So if we're at 68% of our students reading by the end of 2nd grade, how do we get to 72? How do we get to 75? And so we will put these indicators in here of where we stand, but then start benchmarking against those indicators for improvements. And that's what I need the Guiding Coalition for. So we have a lot of staff changes upon us. And so when you have staff changes, we need to pull together and learn to re-norm, rediscuss what's important, and we need people to do that. And so while the high school has the most changes coming to them, I feel I need to pull a district guiding coalition together. So the idea of this will be monthly guidance and direction for the building project, the vision and indicators, and then feedback on major initiatives. This won't necessarily be a gripe session about specific issues, but I want to focus on really getting this feedback about how we're moving forward around all the major initiatives and what's happening in Littlestown. So I'm going to ask for 10 to 15 individuals to share in this vision and direction to help me and guide the district in the right place, in the right direction. So please reach out to me with an email. I will most likely send a prompt on this for people to sign up. So I do want a broad spectrum of individuals, from core teachers to elective teachers and support staff and counseling and support as well. So if you have any questions, please let me know. There will be a blog communication coming out so that you can watch this video again or watch it for the first time and then post questions. In the blog, I'll respond to and hope to engage with many staff members who feel maybe more comfortable asking a question in a blog and getting a response. And then everybody can see the response in the blog versus a staff meeting or a faculty meeting. So we're going to give this a try. Have a good Halloween week and weekend, and we'll see you for an update in November, December.